know about you, but I have a laundry list of screenwriting books that have been recommended to me throughout all of my years of pursuing screenwriting. Now, I myself find it really hard to get through technical books because I don't have the patience or the focus to sit down and just read through every bit. And that tends to be a big problem because when you take a course in screenwriting or you ask a screenwriter friend, they give you a lot of recommendations of books that are really great resources. And they have a lot of great information. They just don't suit me. Enter in a book that I was recommended that I literally didn't have to even fully read. So if your focus is like mine and you really just want to cut to the chase, let's talk about Screenwriting is Rewriting, because you pretty much don't even have to finish reading the book to get 10 times the value that you can get from, say, Save the Cat. I'm gonna get in so much trouble for saying that since I haven't read Save the Cat. Welcome to my channel, Scribes. I'm Pika Lee. I'm a writer and filmmaker. I make videos to demystify the entertainment industry for writers like you, to actually help you create very healthy writing habits, and of course, to help you develop story. So let's get into talking about this book that you basically don't have to read for people who just can't get through a screenwriting book. Will you want to read it? Yes. I go back and I reread bits and pieces all the time. I'm just gonna simply tell you how I use it effectively when I write, how you can use it effectively, and then I'm going to go ahead and just give you an overview of what's inside the book so that you can decide for yourself if you want to buy this book. This writer knew exactly what you needed to know and made it so that you can actually use this book as more of a guide rather than a book that you have to read cover to cover. The notes are already there for you. It's written by Jack Epps Jr., who was a professor and chair at the University of Southern California. He is a former reader of scripts, so someone who actually would intake scripts for a company and do coverage on it. And he's also a screenwriter for things that you actually might know. He was a writer for Top Gun, the original, and for the newest one, Maverick. As well, he wrote Anaconda, Turner and Hooch with the ever-amazing Tom Hanks, and a TV show, Hawaii Five-0. As you can see, he has a ton of experience. Although I have a smaller focus when I'm trying to read something that's less fiction-y and less fun, I was really able to get through it because it actually had a bunch of subheadings, which I loved. The first thing the book tells you is to succeed, you need a plan of attack to analyze, organize, problem solve, and execute. And that sums up nicely what Screenwriting is Rewriting is all about. The sections are all to really help you revise, restructure, reorganize, analyze your full script, mostly your first draft. So if you've already written your script and you're ready to go on to the revising portion, this book was meant to actually help you do it like a pro. In the table of contents, you're going to see that this book is actually written in 4 parts, and that's done with intention. The author, Jack Epps Jr., has actually sectioned out this for you so that the very first part of this is pretty much the introduction and the fundamental foundational passes. This is something that I needed the most help in, so I stay heavily in this part of the book, which is thankfully the first part of the book, and this is where I do a lot of the majority of my work. In part 1, you're going to focus on the foundational passes, which will be your plot, your story, your character arcs, and all of that is focused in structured passes. While I think this is a great book for new writers, I also think that this helps a lot with intermediate to advanced writers, just as a go-to guidebook, so you can crack it open at the right pages and you can take a look at some of the things that I'm going to talk about later, but basically, that's your little intro into there's more to the pages than it seems, and I will talk about how I use that later. For now, the second part of the book is actually more along the lines of your details pass. So it explains a lot of the different passes, because the way that this is laid out is you would revise in layers. The more passes and revisions that you take by reading and going through your script and just analyzing every bit of it, the more that you're gonna add those details in, especially with the detail passes in part 2, that are really gonna elevate your script. What's great about doing all these passes in the way that Jack Epps Jr. has actually structured this and laid it out for you is that you start with the most important, which is that structure foundational pass. This way you can work on each pass with a very clear head. So we're going to read the script and we're only going to focus on the character, or we're only going to focus on the plot. In part 2, you've got a lot of conflict layering that you're working with, how relationships work in turn together, and how that all pans out, all the details of that. That really makes for a very structured and very well thought out script. Part 3 is interviews and talks with screenwriters on the rewriting process. So it's a really great place where you can look through transcripts of what he's done with an interview between another really successful writer. It's something to go back to. It's a great thing to have in the back of the book, and I'm really glad that Jack Epps Jr. placed it towards the back of the book so that you can focus on the good stuff right in the first half. The fourth part of the book is actually a lot of annotated script notes from students of his that have put to practice what he's taught you. So a lot of actual scans of the script that they've created and the notes that they've written by hand, or coverage bits. It's a really nice element that he included, especially for those of us who are very visual learners. Okay, let's talk about how I actually use the book. I bought these nifty little bookmarkers that you can put right onto your book, and I decided to actually tab where I'd like to actually focus some of my time on. So I've got structure, I've got the plot pass, I've got the character pass, and a few different extras here that are really, really helpful when I'm in the stages of my fundamental passes. Towards the back of the book, there's going to be actual passes that are going to be more detail oriented. I've also got the back bookmarked with essential three-act questionnaires that will help you really dig deep and analyze, to restructure, or to hone in on the answers for your script. He's also put in some action items for you to fill in, which is something along the lines of say your premise in about 2 or 3 sentences, and that's basically a log line. Then there's also another great little prompt here from the essential 3-act questionnaire in the back that is actually about where does the movie take place, what is the theme of the screenplay, use one word to describe what your movie is about. Great questions that are going to help you in a quick pitch. So not only do I think that he is setting you up to actually produce a really great script, I think he's also setting you up to pitch your script in a really concise, very structured and organized way. These sections that I've actually mapped out and bookmarked for easier and quicker access to them is really amazing because it's got a set of questions there that really lets you analyze your script in a different light that you may not have thought of when you were beginning your journey into screenwriting. It was questions that I think the producers and the directors are probably going to ask you when you go into a meeting with them. And the fact that I don't have to read every single chapter to understand this, but I can go directly to the chapter that I bookmarked. I have a set of questions. The set of questions is in a subheading that tells me exactly what this is used for. So for those of you who like to actually plan your outline and then get to writing, this book will aid you in writing before you sit down to write, so that when you do your outline, you've answered these questions so that you write a very clear first pass and have a less messy draft to go back to. And your first 0 draft can come out so clean that when you go out to rewrite it the next few times, there's very little work to do. Now stay tuned because I'm going to give you all of the pages that I've bookmarked right now. I recommend the stickies that remove really well, that don't stick too hard to the page. I just want to make sure that you place these all in the right spot for you. Page 23, I've placed the structure tab, and that is because that's where it breaks down the reference to how you're going to do the process of revising. Page 34 talks specifically about characters. There's a lot of different subheadings that are great right here for you to dive into developing your characters a lot better. Page 44 and 45, they're basically the beginning of the foundation pass. They've got some notes there about what it means when they give you a specific note that's like, I don't understand who your character is, and an example of what that translates to. AKA, what does it mean when someone says, I don't get your character? Page 53 is the character pass, and this has a lot of great information for you to strengthen your character with some really cool objectives right in the very beginning of the chapter for you to pay attention to. Page 101 is more structure pass notes and common notes that you might see and what they might mean, plus the potential solutions for them. Really great section also. Page 125 is your plot pass, so definitely pay attention to this. Now, I'm only going to give you the foundation pass pages that I have marked down. There are more pages that you can go through. All of it, of course, can be found in the table of contents. On page 297 starts the annotated pages for the students, and you can mark that down if you do want to go back there. If not, you can also just leave it as is and find the annotated chapters later on, but I did mark it. And lastly, 315, which has the essential 3-act structure questions. Really important. This book was absolutely one of my favorites. It has done so much teaching for me. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this one, Scribes. I will see you on the next one.